So we have Derrick Hammer from LoomWeb, I know you're doing lots of things. You're an amazing, developer and contributor in the community of Web3 and Handshake. So how are you doing today, Derrick?
Doing fine, been a busy day.
Yeah, always something going. So yeah, I think we'll just jump right in. I appreciate your support of the channel, and we just had that recent integrations video that I made, and you were helping me clarify some points on the DNS side or the browser side. So I think we could go through some. I made a little bit of an outline, and we can just go through this
Yeah.
and learn. So browsers. Maybe actually, what is a browser? Okay, maybe we should even define what it sounds like basic, but how would you define a browser? That's probably a good.
A gateway to the internet.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. Like I'm in Chrome right now, as you can see, and there's Beacon, which is a new one for handshakers, and of course there's Brave and Opera, and there's Safari.
Visualization of data discovery. I mean, there's a million ways you can describe that.
Yeah, so it's just I think it's a client, right? I think I said in the integration
Yeah.
like a client
Yeah.
that the
From a
web.
from a from a from a technical point of view, yes, as a client.
Yeah, so it's more technical as a client, and so of course we're all excited in Web3 and blockchain domains and Handshake and all these different Web3 domain projects want to be integrated into these browsers, right? So the grail, I guess, is Chrome or Brave, so that somebody just goes there and types in your domain, just like an ICANN domain, and they can see the content on this site. So there's a few different ways to connect, to integrate, right? And again, I'm not admitting to be an expert. There's APIs, which is like kind of just accessing a database, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's roughly kind of where you're just it's not really true Web3 or thing.
Yeah, I don't
It's
think
really
it's.
it's more it's kind of like I think like it reminds me of, if I remember correctly, that there's a something hosted by the Bob Wallet devs that allow them to resolve handshake names and centralized server or something
Well,
like
then
that.
I think it's not. I think with Namebase in the past or even currently, there's there are some ways that people integrate through an API, which is not ideal. Actually, I don't want to keep picking on UD, but this is a clip I took from Matt Zipkin's talk. It's just Derek, maybe we can just watch it together. I'll put it in the video too. But it's less than a minute.
Two, decentralized DNS, another one of these great buzzwords. I'm going to kind of just skip to the bottom here. This is actual code from the Brave browser. Brave has a file called decentralized DNS, and they say that they support unstoppable domains. https resolver.unstoppable.io. That's what Brave browser is doing to resolve the decentralized DNS. And this affects me emotionally. Like, this is humiliating. Like, why are you calling it decentralized DNS? It goes to a legacy ICANN domain.io with legacy certificate authority. All right, and finally DNS records on the blockchain. So a lot. All right, and finally,
okay, so that's the only clip I took. But see, there's a screenshot. So this is Matt Zipkin in the community, and he's pointing to. He says this is Brave browser code that is pulling for unstoppable name resolution resolver.unstoppable.io. So that's API, right? Or I mean, I guess what?
Yeah. That's a very simplistic REST API. I mean, I can tell you that I've me as in LoomWeb have tried working with unstoppable domains like as a project. I wanted to have them as part of Loom, and I wanted to cooperate with them. Let's just say that they dicked around, and let's just say that they were dragging their feet, and I did not do it mainly because they were only supporting IPFS. And you know why? It's because Protocol Labs is bankrolling them.
Mm.
So Protocol Labs and Coinbase are investors.
Mm.
So yeah, so pretty much I was trying to get them to open it up so you can have a generalized content field, like CID, so you can use other networks like Skynet, Arweave, and such. And because I was not going to limit the users to just one network, because that doesn't benefit the end user. And I was waiting on them to do something similar, even they agreed with it to an extent. And then they opened a ticket, and then I had to ping back like 5 times. Eventually, I was just saying, screw it. I heard about the Web3 wallet drama. I posted on Twitter about my thoughts. I left the server. I haven't talked to them since.
Okay.
But yeah, I tried playing nice with them, but it just went nowhere,
Got it. Yeah, I mean, they are more business centered, like you said. They have investors, and they need to, I guess, work with the companies that are their investors or prioritize those, which is,
which is kind of against everything that WIM stands for.
I think I would say Web3 or decentralized internet in general.
Yeah,
right?
but but that's pretty much the whole thing that WIM's here to fix, is to bring it back to the community, bring it back, foster grassroots, and get out of this hole we've dug.
Yeah. So I did ask you, we were chatting about this. I don't really understand. And I don't mind this. I'm not saying I'm an expert. So a pin on IPFS. It seems like I was reading some threads on Twitter about that with Brave integrations to Unstoppable. How does that? You kind of give me some text here, but can you kind of educate those that don't know?
So basically, I think most people understand what BitTorrent is. It's peer-to-peer. And when you have and with BitTorrent, most people understand you have seeders and you have leechers. Seeders are people who have the file completely and are hosting it, whether or not they should be serving the file legally, morally, or whatever you might consider is really out of scope. But on a technical perspective, you have seeders who have the full file, and leechers who either don't have any of the file or are downloading it, or have partial of the file and are sharing it. And so in the day, it's just a peer-to-peer system like Mini, and IPFS is just an evolution of BitTorrent, but it's using that, but for a file system, like it's just folder. It's like a BitTorrent Dropbox.
Okay.
And so if you don't have one more people who are pinning that file that was based on that content ID, that hash, because things like IPFS servers have hashes. Those are really their content IDs, or their hashes, their representations of the content. In the same way you have an MD5 or SHA-1 type hash, same idea. So if you have more than one person pinning the file, it stays up. If no one's pinning the file, it's like BitTorrent. You can't download the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's that simple. That's the difference between that and things like Arweave, where it's like I consider Arweave to be tape storage. It's like on the blockchain. It's actually on the storage and forever. It's just designed for that point. And then you have things like SIA, which is like hot storage or like S3 object storage. And you're paying per month through either directly or through like Skynet or Firebase or another abstraction layer to give you access to it for and such. So for me, what mattered the most are IPFS, Arweave, Skynet. And there might be some others more obscure ones, but those are primary 3 players that matter. And so the rug pull is when the hosting's no longer being paid for, because all their main is, as you said in the past, is a word NFT, and that word NFT gets utility by something be able to use it to tell you where to go. But it's really no different than having a domain point to a website that's an IP address or VPS server or cPanel hosting that got taken down. That's the rug pull. It's the same principle. So it's like if the server went down or you got suspended, well, isn't that rug pulling on Web 2?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It seems like
Like
that does make
it's the same
sense.
principle.
So let's go with some of the, you're kind of going through it. So IPFS, SIA or SIA, Arweave.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, um, so we kind of just talked about API at the beginning, which is not really Web3. It's centralized. It's a traditional.
API might be in. API is a cop out. It's an easy way to get things done. It's like because I could make a browser extension. I mean, people have been doing this. Hey, let's make a browser extension that resolves Web3. Oh, let's just send it through a REST API to do all the work.
Yeah.
Yay! Now
And
you
that's
can
just like a
make sensors.
database that somebody can update or take
Yeah,
offline.
yeah,
Yeah.
or you can do anything, and it's just centralized, censored, and it's just a hype marketing. Like that's
Mm,
all it is.
got it. So
You
let's
know,
talk
it's
about
like
some of the
it's not
better
really doing
ways.
anything.
I think, is there two? So am I right to say there's two ways the way through the blockchain resolving? Is that IPFS like what you're saying with Arweaves? And then there's like
Okay,
resolvers, which is like DNS. Is
okay, yeah, yeah,
DNS and blockchain are not the same,
that's
right? Like,
yeah. This is where it gets tricky, and this is also where there's a lot of politics, a little bit in Handshake as well. So I guess okay. So do you understand what EPP is?
I've heard the word and I've seen it around a little bit, but I can't say it. I know it enough.
It's actually don't know what it stands for, but it's like EPP is a protocol used for management of ICANN domains. I know you have you've got never that transfer code in your domains for
Yeah, I've seen. That's what I think
well
the EPP code is, right? When
yeah,
that's how I.
EPP it's like a protocol standard, and it's like okay, put this way, consider EPP as a Web2 as an ICANN version of the Handshake protocol in some ways.
Okay.
It's like the centralized standard for ICANN of how things get moved around and with the centralized databases. Understand?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And yeah, and so and like how how gateway and how gateways I believe Gateway's owner, what used to
Yeah.
be a expert, he built his own EPP software, gateway
Mm,
software. Yeah, yeah, it makes sense now. So the thing is that when you're doing that and you have all these things on port bun and on Namecheap, they're fine, but only the root domain is censor proof. They can censor the SLDs because
mm,
they're on the normal traditional DNS. If you're having something inside namebase, it can be censored because it is still it's running on a normal DNS server, even if the root is on Handshake. Does that make sense?
yeah. So then would EPP be a DNS server? Is that the right?
No. Well, even no. EPP is more of just a protocol of how you manage is part of the registry system. Understand?
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, EPP is like imagine EPP as a protocol around the centralized databases for ICANN domains in the same way you have the Handshake protocol is around the Handshake database blockchain,
Mm,
and then you have the records which then point to the name servers that tell you how to look it up on like Power DNS or Bind.
okay.
Understand? It's the same principle as different technologies. One is centralized, one is decentralized. This is
Yeah.
why we have HIP5 on Handshake
Yeah. Yeah.
to have that little pointer. All that little pointer does is it tells you where to go, but that pointer is really meaningless unless the client understands what it means. So, for example, right now we have Ethereum, but you can have it go to Polygon, you can have it go to Algorand, Ergo, Cardano, XYZ blockchain, and as long as the client can understand it and parse it out, it can take that, look it up, and connect to that blockchain, get the information. Because really, all resolvers are just the client jumping between different blockchains and following the breadcrumbs. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just hopping between the musical chairs and saying, okay, Handshake. Okay, I found this domain. Okay, where do we have a name server? Okay, do we have a content hash? Okay, no, do we have a Do we have a HIP5 name NS record? Okay, we have that. Let's go. Okay, is this where's this? Is on? Is this on Ethereum? Okay, is this a is this a impervious contract? Is this ENS? Is this some custom person's registry? Is this somewhere else? Where's it at? Fine, and then whatever it might be, you might have to talk to a different protocol for that registry. Like, how ENS has their own standards, and other people have their own standards, and then you jump through all that, and then whatever network it is, and you talk to that network with that resolver. Because for Loom, at least these are going to be different plugins. Like, and I know that Fingertip has its own type of plugin system as well, if I remember correctly. But for Loom, it's going to literally be plugins, and in simple words. And so every single plugin or resolver or module in your code or whatever you're using would ideally be responsible for managing that network or managing that domain or however you want to structure it. But the idea is that you have code that can handle every single network and handle the registries and just hop between them. And then eventually you'll get an IP, you'll get content hash, or you'll get some sort of text record, depending on what you're trying to look up in the DNS. And this and all chain is just through RPC. And we know what RPC is. It's basically the querying system that for the databases for blockchains. And the most common way to know about it is looking up your NFTs and balances on MetaMask.
Yeah, exactly. I always think of MetaMask.
The MetaMask is the most common thing, but MetaMask is just talking to an RPC endpoint via HTTP or over WebSockets. That's all it is. And so it's just like querying APIs on chain APIs and such, and pulling the data, as you said before in the last video. And then using that to go between every single network's database and find where the website's at. Is it a web server? Is it web server? Is it a DNS or is it a bind server? You need to look up the IP. Is it a content server? I mean, is it on SIA? Is it on Arweave? Where's the content at? It's the same thing. Like you have a domain, you point to an IP. You buy a domain, you put on Cloudflare, you put on GoDaddy. You give it a you set the IP, you have it on like Namecheap hosting, you have it GoDaddy hosting, and then you load it. Where's the content? It's on a server. Yeah, like it's all the same principles, different technology.
Got it. This is really helpful for me. I'm kind of picturing it in my mind. Maybe I'll draw it up, but yeah, like there's of course the domain, then there's the DNS, just like Cloudflare. I usually use like obviously GoDaddy or Namecheap. You then set your DNS and then point your A records or your CNAME, which is similar as in the blockchain.
Just remember that at a high level, DNS is a phone book. Because people, I wasn't around this, but some old school people remember the days of whenever you used to use the Windows host file to.
I kind of remember that.
Create your own domains. It's a phone book. Like the host file is the simplest form of a DNS server you'll ever have. etc/etc/host on Linux or even on Mac. It's the same. It's the same principles. So just imagine if you, instead of an IP, you were doing posting a domain, and having a point to a content hash or an IPFS hash in your host file instead of an IP address. That's the same. That's the same principle.
Got it.
It's just how you're querying it. Where are you going to find information? That's all it is. Where are you going to get it?
Okay.
And then the key is, how do you do that decentralized without relying on centralized first?
Yeah, maybe we talk about this. Yeah, maybe I'll add this as how to do this.
Yeah,
I think decentralized just means distributed, right? Like it's not one central server or point of failure.
To an extent, but I'll say that Angry Mouse Center community would have some words to say about this. He's
he's pretty strong-minded.
Yeah. He is basically on the absolutist side, and
Yeah,
I can
maybe
definitely
his the
respect that.
Ukraine situation doesn't help. Like the instability, the stress
Yeah,
that must be.
he's actually helped define some of this as well.
Oh,
That
cool.
there's distributed or decentralized. Some of what Loom does is decentralized. Some of what Loom does is distributed. The decentralized effectively, like with blockchain, is it's the idea that you have it's like you have databases and like if you want to have a distributed database, all you really have is a database. It might have multiple servers, and they're used for load balancers for scaling. Like big sites need to scale up and handle a lot of clients, like
Mm,
e-commerce. You know what I mean?
yeah, like even on a CDN, right? Like you on
Yeah,
traditional web
yeah,
hosting, you wanted to
yeah,
get in multiple.
yeah. You scale multiple servers, but for like e-commerce sites, it's like say you have 1 million customers, you need to get like 50 servers and
Yeah,
scale out with a database to handle all the load. That's blockchain if the nodes trust each other.
yeah.
Since the nodes don't trust each other, that means it's decentralized because they have to figure out how to come to a consensus. But if the nodes
Mm,
could trust each other, because they're all under the same person, the only thing difference is the nodes is the database can be changed. It's not pinned only. Because the only thing really different between a MySQL database and a blockchain, if they were fully trusted, is one can just be modified record, and then you always have to pin updates. You can't just modify it. So it's a pin only ledger. That's the only real difference between a blockchain and a MySQL database if they were both fully trusted. And then once you take in the need for not trusting anyone, that's when you need to get all the consensus, proof of work, proof of stake, proof of ABC. It's a different component of blockchain. Now, peer to peer is more like distributed, because to an extent you're trusting, you either don't need to trust the other parties at all, or you're trusting them because you have their pub key, or you're trusting them to do some other mechanism where you can reduce risk. And then the other side is when you have blockchains that help you broker situations like Bitcoin, Akahash, Saya, Handshake, where you're able to broker to pay for information or pay for something trustless, or you get the idea.
yeah, I get it.
So there's so there's some places where distributed makes sense, and there's some places where trustless makes sense, but they're all still more where you're in control more, and it's not running a centralized server.
Yep. No, this is helping me. I think maybe maybe we just, unless you think there's more points to add on that, I think the next point, maybe my final point that I have, is just the collisions. There's all this unsolvable things like collisions you can't have them. They're just dangerous. They just can't exist. I think, of course, Handshake is just, everybody has different opinions about that, but of course nobody likes collisions. But I think Handshake feels collisions can happen. It's just how do users adjust, or clients, which are browsers, right? So do you have some ideas of how it works if multiple blockchains have multiple Web3 domains with the same name?
I've already seen this, and I can tell you that that Lumen is going to be a very unique position politically, and I have the responsibility to deal with this myself. So right now I'm taking a very simplistic position that I feel is pretty much common sense. Every blockchain will get priority for one TLD, like the ETH, the Algo, the AVAX, the EVMOS, the Sol. You get the idea. And then if anyone and then in the others, like I own that web app. If I'm not going to have my code support that web app, if I'm on Ethereum, because for somebody else, because I'm the one that owns that. I consider that to be a distinction between chain-owned TLDs and private TLDs in my head. And so the idea there is that a blockchain can gets the right to one TLD for the community to play nice with the ecosystem. Everything else, respect Handshake.
That's that does sound nice in an ideal world,
Yeah,
but I mean,
but
they're still gonna there still has to be something programmed into. There's still gotta be something in your settings and these other browsers or system settings.
I know that part of it, but I'm saying that's really what I'm going to be doing, because I feel that Loom in the long term is going to be a very big player, and that means politically, which means that people are going to start going and give a shit. And like at some point, Loom might be as big as Brave browser or something like that.
Awesome.
And what if you think about it, where it can actually affect change, that's what I'm trying to do. Nice. So, but I understand your point about this. It all comes down to social consensus and network effect. It's like, and really, it's all up to the clients. It's all up to what the apps do. And so we're already seeing this with other people trying to screw around. And the reality is that Handshake itself in the most simplistic form, it's just a registry that allows you to socially if people can, with a network effect, allows people to socially agree on who owns what in most cases. You technically could still do all this without Handshake and then have all these disparate TLDs, and it would just be tribal wars. And so, and you have web, and you have all these TLDs and 5 different blockchains, and it'll just be chaos, you know? Yeah. So what really comes down to is that it's just really the community just respecting things and not trying to fight each other. And Handshake, it gives an opportunity if people can decide to respect it, to use it as a means to do so. So like right now, I have a lot of Handshake assets. I don't need to invest and buy them. I could just go and spin up things right now, sell them off, have my technology work with them, and give the Handshake the middle finger.
Yeah.
What who's that sound like? Unstoppable domain. Yeah. So it's like, but that's the thing, is that we need to work together, but we also need to have compromise. The thing is that
what about?
The problem with UDM, I think his name's Brandon, is that you're never going to get a centralized entity controlling this, because that's the exact opposite to what we're doing. Yeah. You're never going to get centralized pretty control of this. People just need to get together and just play nice, and eventually a network effect will figure out who gets what, because at the end of the day, it's going to be the end user using an application that's going to decide what happens. And I mean, because right now I can tell you that if you want unstoppable domains on the Loom, you can write a resolver module. In theory, with my technology, you can write a resolver module, deploy to Skynet, put in your browser, set the order, priority order, and then have it load. And that'll just be for you. You don't need to deploy it to everybody. You know?
So like, I mean, you could do your own settings in your own browser, in your own.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which I think is the right way. Yeah, I think that's.
I mean, people want that. They can do that. You can make your own registry and have it private for you, where you can share it to your family, friends, etc. But the key is that it can't be global, because otherwise, then you're fucking with the whole internet and everybody's systems. Yep. And that's when you get safety, privacy, security issues.
Yep, agreed.
So you have to have a very large balance here, and I think I have a common sense policy for what's in my control for my projects.
Okay,
but you're not. But in the day, Handshake is just here to, I guess, to help get some sort of social consensus of who can do what, and it's just a matter of everybody respecting it. Because if we don't respect it, then somebody, frankly, if we don't. My opinion, if we don't respect Handshake, I think we might actually get legal involved with regulations. And then, if you consider like DeFi, it'd be kind of scary, frankly, if the U.S. government made laws that says that you can't make a DeFi register, a decentralized domain registry without registering, and then everybody has to be anonymous, and then so I have to buy a domain name for somebody from a TLD I don't know, because they can't identify themselves, otherwise they won't get sued by Gary.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I mean, it's like there's gonna be a lot. There's gonna be a lot of shit going on wrong if this doesn't get handled correctly by the community. The government will step in and it will really fuck things up.
Yeah.
And then it'll be a lot harder for us to do things. I mean, we're already seeing what they're trying to do with DeFi. I mean, it's not pretty.
Yeah.
So, so then the handshake is probably the best way to get done. People just need to respect it, and I hope that my goal for Loom is to get it out there because Loom will be spreading Handshake.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Yeah, so
let me know. We can do a video when you're ready to show it off. And
because Loom itself has a lot going for it, a lot going on. I have, let's just say this, put this way, I have 40, 80 domains in my in a domain account. All I can. I have an ecosystem I'm building, like planning. Awesome. So it's like for a long term, it's like it's all for the community. As you like for what you do, it's all for the community. I'm trying to do everything grassroots without the VCs. Get them out of the fucking room, and I'm just sick of all this shit that's happening, and just fix the damn industry. Like you've seen all the traction, fix the damn industry. That's what we need to do, and that's what I'm trying to do. It's great, and it just pisses me off, you know.
Yeah, I mean, but I think we're making more headway than grassroots. I mean, is with internet and technology. But of course, I think the thing about VC or investors is it makes it go faster, and obviously that's why companies that take VC money can go faster because they get money and they can hire people and pay for integration.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with VCs for VCs as in VCs for what their job. They have a business, they have a role, they have a job, they make money. They're not necessarily evil in the sense of just who they are, but VCs are broadly the antithesis to Web3. Yeah. Because how they want to make money is centralized ROI.
Yeah.
VCs are good for building technology. I mean, I've talked to several different people, and some of them are a bit more pro VC than me. And VCs are good for bankrolling, funding technology. I mean, Handshake got started with this, but VCs gave up a lot of the control as well.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think Handshake took it to give it away.
Yeah, but I think Handshake is a bit of an exception still, even though it got VCs involved. But VCs are bad, and they can help build the technology. But the key is VCs cannot be in control. They can't have governance control. They can't be telling what the blockchain to do. They can't tell the community to do. They can't make single-handed decisions about the future of the internet.
Agreed.
They can help build the technology and fund it, but they can't be allowed to control it. There's two different roles there. They can bankroll it, but they can't be.
Yeah, they can make money off of it, but they shouldn't be.
It's like we have Mickey. I mean, he's probably going to be doing a lot of shit in the next 5-10 years with Handshake because he's involved. But do we really want him to be deciding, despite how? And this isn't anything personally, Mickey. It's just the idea that do we want him as a VC single-handedly deciding what's going on with Handshake, even if he's a good actor? It's on principle. You don't want VC to singly deciding that. You want the community deciding that. You know?
Great. I think that's perfect. I think that's a great way to wrap up our session today, Derrick. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming on and all the things you do for the Web3 and Handshake community and this channel. So
some people consider DWeb. I consider. And I'm probably going to be, and I think we'll be having that debate. I think the DWeb versus Web3 debate is kind of like the PS3 versus Xbox debate.
Yeah,
having it for next decade.
I kind of mixed the words up on purpose just to kind of distribute.
But for my definition, Web3 is DWeb plus economy.
Okay.
DWeb is peer-to-peer, BitTorrent, Tor, Hypercore, that thing, and the economy is blockchain, DeFi, anything that it gives people. Basically, if someone pays you money through a system to keep a host server running, like Akash, then that's Web3 because then all of a sudden you're running a peer-to-peer system, but you're getting paid to run it. You're getting an economy. You're getting an economy on it. So it's combining the altruism with the economy. Because the reason that Tor is so slow, for example, is because you have volunteers running servers that probably cost $1,500 a month, and who's going to do that? And how can you expect a bunch of people to do that? You know, it's like yeah, I mean, it's like if like the infrastructure, like how do you want to expect someone to run $100, $200 a month infrastructure for free?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's like all the validators that require supercomputers. Like it just, the economics don't make sense unless they get compensated somehow for it. It's like, then it's like you need to figure out where's the money coming from to pay for the infrastructure that you're using. Who's paying for it? Where's the bills? That's the simple truth about it.
People got to pay.
All the D web and PP, all the D web purists, they want all this P2P utopia. The problem with it is that you can rely on altruism for some people helping, but you cannot rely on altruism 100%. Humanity doesn't work like that. If it did, we wouldn't need blockchain.
Yeah.
If we could run on P2P with altruism, we would not need blockchain at all.
Yeah.
Like if you think about that, so blockchain got invented for money because we need money in the humanity. So as the economy, in our current stage of evolution, if we didn't need money, we could use BitTorrent and Tor. But BitTorrent and Tor's been around since I was born. It has to take over the web. So that tells you something, you know. It's just and for Loom, it's using a mix of both. It's using some P2P technology, and then it's using some paid. So it's using a hybrid setup to take the best of both worlds, and actually unify everything. Because the problem is that blockchain people and the P2P people tend to shit on each other, but too much. Loom is taking both of them together. Loom is taking both of them together and unifying them so that you get the best of each output. So they can both of them shut up and just let's just move. You know, like. Yeah, so that's really that's just really the big picture for something for people to think about, because people too often get a lot of fanboy debates and get in and okay, blockchain is scam, D web is just a novelty toy, like it gets stupid. You need both sides of the story. It's because it's like the same way. It's like how you have how you have money, e-commerce, and things that are paying for the internet. What we're doing instead, we are taking the economy that we get paid, that gets paid to Google, and we are just paying, and we're just having it for ourselves. We have a free internet, but in exchange for that, Google gets money. But now instead of Google doing it, the community is doing it. Yeah. So you're having to switch roles up, but you still need an economy and somebody getting paid somewhere to pay for the infrastructure to operate. Otherwise, it's not going to work because no one's going to do something for free. It's just that's just human nature.
Yeah, we need to make a living.
The one principle about it is that when everyone thinks about peer-to-peer and decentralization and such, it asks. If you're going to run a server or something or help community, everyone, and you want other people to do it too, you need to ask, what's in it for me? People always have that problem, and that's why peer-to-peer does not get mass adoption. It's because it's good for a small group, and the advanced geeks of the internet. It's never going to go to the Facebook users ever, because people think it might. But unless you have a reason for them, unless you have some big company funding it or someone paying the bills, it's not going to happen.
Got it.
So I'm trying to rebalance that and bring in both aspects of it, because at the same time, you have people who want to have everything be paid, and it's like imagine the internet where you had to pay for every single DNS query and every single byte downloaded. No one would use that because everybody had to have a wallet to pay for it. It would be like pay-per-view for web. It would not work. Yeah. So you have to balance those two ends and have something that people can get on easily and they can use for free, and yet people still get compensated to an extent in some way, and the resources still get paid for. That's the challenge. That's the Holy Grail challenge. That's the Holy Grail. That is the Holy Grail challenge to get between each extreme. It's the same extreme like between completely centralized systems and trusting everyone, no tinfoil hat, having a full node in their desktop with a full air gap computer. You know, like it's a spectrum. You have figure out a balance where everyone is decentralized, everyone's secure, everyone's safe, but you don't need a damn supercomputer to run Web3.
And full nodes. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So it's like, this is the problem that Loom's been trying to work with to solve for a year.
Nice.
It's not simple. Like if you think about it, so yeah. And sorry for ranting on this, but it's just
this is great. No, I think this is a great way to wrap up. Give us some more insights and thoughts.
Because it's just more of like people don't really have a really understanding of the complexities involved in this, because it's like ask us, how could you load 10 blockchains in your browser to load domains from 10 blockchain networks without having them on your computer?
Yeah.
Like, think about that. Imagine you have because Ethereum alone takes over 1 terabyte of SSD storage. Imagine having Solana, Algorand, EVMLS, AVAX. Imagine having all those blockchain databases on your computer and loading from them. That ain't gonna work, So there has to be a way to make that work in a way that can be trusted, to an extent, also be trustless and be easy to onboard without having to have a damn $10,000 machine. Because otherwise, and not just centralize it into like Opera API, or Brave API. Like you need to have a middle ground, and Loom's solution to that is trusting the community, putting the community in charge, and having the community run the infrastructure to do so, and then having the user decide, who do I want to trust? That's simple. Who do I want to trust?
I like that. Who do I want to trust? I like that.
Yeah, and then from that, you can decide at any time to change who you want to trust. You trust, and then imagine having all these projects they're contributing to the network, and they're all helping out because it's in everybody's interest to have a Web3 network. And then from that, the users don't need to run all this damn software. They just talk to the network, and they just get a semi-trusted answer, and because they're trusting that those people, and then they can load it. And it's not completely centralized. It's not completely decentralized. But it means that the community is deciding what happens. The community is helping and pitching in, because it's the community who wants to access to begin with. And the users don't need to buy a machine they're never going to be able to run, and they never would run, to make it happen. Like that's the real key, is that you need to have a balance between Web 2 and completely tinfoil hat. You need to have a middle ground so everybody can access the internet, but it's not dictated by the VCs. It's not dictated by Google. It's not dictated by the big tech. It's dictated by us. But man, so means you need to trust somebody. But it also means you don't need to run 100 pieces of software in your computer and be a fucking system administrator.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like
this is great. I gotta run in a minute, but this has really been great, man.
I hope you've learned some of this, because there is a lot involved.
I've learned a lot.
There is a lot.
I mean, the rabbit hole is deep, man. I've been, like I always admit I don't claim to be so technical, but I try to keep up. And yeah, I mean, the last couple of years of this channel and everything, I'm trying to keep up, but yeah, it just seems like there's just limitless amount of things to learn, which makes it fun, but also overwhelming. So I hope listeners got some insights like me today.
Yeah, for me, I can tell you that it's more of the reason I'm in what I'm doing is because this is the .com bubble 2.0, and I assume you understand. I'm not sure. I was not old enough for it, but it's like you have 50 blockchains. Which blockchain is going to win, and which 10 blockchains is going to win? Or you have 5 source networks. They're all going to win because they all have different strengths. You don't need to compete against them. Yeah. It's like you have Saya, you have Handshake, you have Saya, you have Arweave, you have Filecoin. They don't all need to compete necessarily because they all have different strengths. But then you have 10 EVM blockchains. Really? Like who's going to win there? You have Aptos, you have SUI, you have You have Algorand, you have Cardano, you have Ergo, you have Nervous, you have blah 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 blah. Like, and it's like, who the hell? It's just like startup companies. It's like it's a .com boom. Like, why would you go after those horses as an investor and builder when you can go after what matters, the internet data? Like, internet data is oil. If you go after the back end of the data, where everything's at, what powers the internet, you don't need to look at anything else. Blockchain, the blockchains are all agnostic. They're all going to do something. But in the end of the day, everybody needs data. Everybody has to store the information on the internet. And that's the key. You go after that, and that's going to be the powerhouse of Web3, not the blockchains. The blockchains will store a lot of finances and store a lot of information, but everything will go to the storage networks. Storage is boring to some, but it's the most powerful thing that will exist in this decade for people to have ownership in. It's like why do you think all these VCs and all these big tech are storing they're not social media networks, they're data aggregators. They're data farmers.
Got it.
So it's like data is the internet. It's that simple. And that's why I'm where I'm at, because my background is in hosting. I'm seeing the perspective as a system administrator and someone who's ran hosting services. What's going to be the future is going to be? Where's it going to go? It's going to go on Web3 data network, storage network, Saya, Arweave archiving, Filecoin. Like, it's like, here's them. Saya is S3 storage, Filecoin is S3 Glacier, and Arweave is tape storage.
Yep.
So with all that, imagine all those three main networks holding all the internet's data. It's very, very powerful, and no one's really paying attention to that. They're all paying attention to pumping their bags on some sort of VC blockchain.
Yeah.
People are missing the plot.
Yeah.
They're completely missing it, you know? So
okay.
I hope
agree.
I hope that gives you a different perspective.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Because I understand that you can understand a bit of that being a marketer. You understand some of that, but yeah,
you think this point of this channel is we're more the marketing. I think a lot of people watching are not as technical, so we try to give them that insight of technical from marketing. So this has been really helpful, Derrick.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, and basically, I hope that people learn from that, because it's like people will have to figure out soon the data networks are where the value is going to be at, not the blockchains. Because people are spending so much money on blockchains, and they might innovate the technology, but in the day, it's data. We all need our data. Data is like golden oil, you know. So
thanks, Derrick. Really appreciate it. I'll stop here and really appreciate it.